Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful September the 7th, 2020. Ronald Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, today is the official, unofficial last day of summer, and I don't think anybody told my meteorologist something. When I woke up this morning, it was only 64 degrees. But we're even going through that little chill. I want to send out a warm thank you to all our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. You never give up on the job that you do on a daily basis.
Every day is a blessing. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars also all around the world. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love doing the pause, Big C, but I'll never pause on this Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, not like Donald Trump, who's been dodging bullets from the media about the disparaging marks he made against our armed forces personnel over the years, Charlton, and like he dodged the draft. We give homage to those great people who have served in the military protecting the United States. And many of these people have come back home, Charlton, mentally and physically scarred, and they need the help of all Americans. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, because some 22 or more a day commit suicide. And even during this pandemic, those numbers most likely have risen. Wow. They just don't tabulate them. And the president won't pay any attention to the military other than saying what he's done for the military, but there's no proof. Put it in writing. Put it up on the screen what you have done. Show us how you help the mentally desperate in the military, our former veterans, Charlton, who are struggling emotionally, financially, and mentally out there. You're not talking about how you help them, but we as Americans have to help them and do all we can. Even though we give out the 800 suicide prevention hotline number, Charlton, all Americans need to do more for these great veterans, even in these troubled times.
They really do, Big C. He's been dodging his tax returns. He dodged the draft 5 times, and now he's saying that he didn't say what everyone heard with their own ears, but we all know he's a liar, Big C. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. Also, I'm very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV, on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers, put their property listings on TV just like McDonald's does. Car dealerships do it. Sports teams are doing it too. You can too. Watch real estate and TV work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624 for opportunities in real estate. Go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com and get some help. I also want to say, for our brethren in California, my goodness, there's so many fires in California, and I know our firefighters, they're dealing with COVID, They're dealing with wildfires, Big C. They're dealing with poor air quality. They're dealing with so many things, but thoughts and prayers are not enough. I'm just asking people, if you have property, if you can clear the grass from around your property, that helps them too, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, one of the latest fires that was set off down in Southern California was about a celebratory celebration about, announcing what the gender of a child was going to be.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they set it off in rockets, Charlton, into the dry grass, and it has burned some 7,000 acres. So the carelessness of the people in that region, Charlton, not caring about their safety as well as their neighbor's safety, that's what you have to be concerned about more than anything else.
Yeah, sometimes people just don't think, and I think that's part of the problem. And then the firefighters
All you gotta do is buy a damn cake and make the cake either blue or pink on the inside.
Yeah, sometimes people don't know if blue is for boy or girl, Big C. If they set a fire, then maybe they just want to call gaslighting to get some more attention. But I just really hope that they all have the best possible opportunity of putting that fire out. I want to jump over to another thing that happened in New York, Big C, in the U.S. Open. Novak Djokovic, he said he's sorry after defaulting in the match. He hit a line umpire with the ball. It's not like he did it on purpose, and I understand that mistakes happen. The umpire, I guess, is going to be okay. Maybe some type of lawsuit coming. People try to sue you, but they know you got money, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, there won't be any lawsuit coming, Charlton, but, the rules are the rules in tennis. And when these type of incidents happen, you're going to be disqualified. But the one good thing about this, Charlton, is that there'll be a new U.S. Open champion. We see the same 3 and 4 people winning all the time.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice to see someone new host the trophy.
Yeah, it is going to be nice. I'm glad everything worked out well. America, please, when you get out and you realize that sometimes somebody is just not worthy of having access to the nuclear codes. You talk about people who have fear of somebody moving into the neighborhood. I'm more afraid of a deranged person having his hands on the nuclear codes. The kind of same deranged person that says don't wear a mask, even tells a reporter today, don't dare wear a mask. America, make sure you get out and vote. Text the word vote to 26797. That's vote 26797 and get registered. Tell all your friends that Big C, the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball, even WNBA, get out and vote, especially in the swing states. Let's make this the biggest vote in the history of the universe. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, voting is an American right, and that's something that everyone should exercise. It's not based on your economic status. It's based on your mental status. You get out and do the right thing.
Yeah, we got to do the right thing. I just appreciate, Big C, having the chance to do the right thing. And it reminded me of a movie that Spike Lee made back in the day. And I was watching some things that I saw with Wakanda Forever. And I really know that life is about how we live. And it's just so much that we can be grateful for, but nothing. It's like everybody who achieves something, they do it through a lot of, you got to sometimes climb the hill. And I heard with Chadwick Boseman, the late Chadwick Boseman, I heard that a movie star said that the only reason Black Panther came to existence is because one of our great actors, Denzel Washington, had given him the okay, somehow, some way. And Denzel was on a talk show funny, and he said, yeah, Wakanda Forever, but where's my money, Big C?
Well, Charlton, that's called networking and standing for somebody.
Yeah.
When someone asks for a reference and people give people references, this is the reason why sports and business stays the way that it is. It's through the nepotism and racial baiting, Charlton, that they keep things to the way. When there's some black people that are in power enough to be able to boast and back somebody and use their credibility to back this person, that's a great place to be in society.
Yeah, it really is. And I know that a lot of colleges are going back on campus now. And I was thinking about something, how Chadwick Boseman was saying he got in a role in Hollywood, and I believe it was on a soap opera. And a lot like what happened with Dave Chappelle, Big C, and because these guys love sports too. They're always, we're going to Laker games or whatever games because they love sports too. But they had the Black Panther of all people. He also played with James Brown. He played in Thurgood Marshall as well. Jackie Robinson in 42. It's amazing how mainstream society wanted to cast one of the best actors in the history of the universe, Chadwick Boseman. They wanted him to be some thuggish guy with a knife to the neck of a white woman. And when he went back and told the director that I don't feel that's my character, I don't want to portray that. You know, they fired him. They let him go. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, there's a lot of stereotypical roles in Hollywood that a lot of people have turned down. Chadwick Boseman has done a lot of prominent roles in movies beyond the ones that you just mentioned. But, you know, you look at certain roles and stereotypes that they've always done for black people in Hollywood. Everyone is not accepted, and that's the reason why they haven't gotten the work that they should have gotten.
Yeah, and so I appreciate when men know their value and they decide that's not for me. I don't want to be that kind of character, and so I really appreciate that. You know, I want to touch on something because I know football is back, but it also feels, as a parent, Big C, I feel bad for people that maybe don't read the way we do. I'm not trying to sound like we're W.E.B. Du Bois talented champs, but I really do think we are. NCAA college football. This is down in the South. I know you love the SEC conference, but it's for the University of Tennessee Volunteers. I think they play Neyland Stadium, holds about 110,000, somewhere in there. They canceled practice on Saturday because they had 44 players test positive for COVID-19. I believe they only had about 77 scholarship players on their team. And it goes back to what I said about Chadwick Boseman being offered a role as a black man mugging some white woman. That would have made Donald Trump happy. But he said, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And they fired him instead of saying, let's make the white woman mug you. I mean, when you look at the movie Thurgood Marshall, lying on people. But give me your thoughts about the University of Tennessee. What do they need to see to say maybe this is not the right idea, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's not about what they see. They know what the problems that are facing them. And today those numbers are up to 47 players testing positive for COVID-19. I think their season opener is on September 21st. So I guess they really don't see that as a problem, having 47 players on September 7th testing positive for COVID-19, and you know you have to do at least a 14-day quarantine, so they can't even practice. So you think about what is it going to take for teams to delay the game. Right now, Tennessee doesn't see that as a problem within their university, having that many young men test positive for COVID-19.
Okay, let me get your thoughts then. Because there's one thing, you know, we're not the one making the $1 billion as the SEC will make with their TV background, Big C, and having those players get out there. And, I mean, sometimes I've heard some great broadcasters over the years saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. And what they believe in and what they chant in comes true. So at what point in time does the University of Tennessee or Alabama or Auburn or LSU or Oklahoma, when do they got to believe in science, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, what they're believing in, Charlton, is the almighty dollar. They understand if they cancel football, that they stand a chance to lose somewhere between $80 and $100 million.
Wow.
And right now, they're not willing to take that chance, Charlton, on the finances of losing the money. They're willing to tell these kids, you know, this is in their best interest, that they're safer being there within the football program than they are going back home and not being around all these positive cases. But I also have to question the parents. And I stopped questioning the universities.
Yeah.
Because the universities are a business. They're just like any other corporation in America.
Yeah.
You have to challenge the parents. Don't challenge the universities any longer. Don't challenge the coaches that make millions of dollars. Challenge the parents who are sitting there saying, I hope my son gets a chance to play in the NFL and I can get out of this situation that I'm in, and, you know, he can make all the family's lives better. What happens if your son dies or, you know, become permanently scarred from going out there trying to play football, and now you're going to potentially have to take care of him the rest of his life because he won't be able to work? So let's stop putting this onus on these universities. The universities that have pulled back away from playing football,
yes,
they're smart. But look at the parents up at the Big Ten and say, we demand that we want our children to play. They deserve that opportunity. But you have to look at them, not keep looking at the universities, putting it on the universities, because we've seen players opt out, saying that they're not going to play this season because of COVID-19. These universities are running a business. You haven't seen every business in America close its doors due to COVID-19.
Yeah, that's true. They have a lot of, but even though they haven't closed the door, they're not having you tackle the guy standing in line in the grocery line to get in line first. They're not having you tackle somebody, pick them up, slam them down to the ground. And I know they're looking at saying, well, look, at the NBA has pulled it off. Okay, they're in a bubble. They're even saying that Major League Baseball is doing a better job of testing. I'm a little bit cynical. I'm thinking, how can society, the numbers are declining almost 200,000 fatalities in the United States, and that's in 7 months. Less than 7 months, about 6 months, Big C. But then you have these sports teams that make a lot of money, millions of dollars, by saying, oh, no, our numbers are down. They're all saying, those 77, those are false positives. We had another doctor look at that, and all 77 tests were wrong because there's too much money to lose. And I just think sometimes as parents and coaches, who's got it better than us? Well, not the Big Ten right now, but they're beating on that door trying to get it done. And speaking of something, because you say don't blame the administration, or don't blame those universities, blame the parents, I want to throw something at you. There's a law and order president, supposedly, for the next couple of, I think about 55 days, 57 days, someone there. Name is Donald Trump, and he attests that he is a law and order president. This is like COVID-19 in sports. Don't believe what you see. On his watch, would you believe that since Donald Trump has been president of the United States of America, there have been over 263 school shootings. I'm going to say that one more time. The law and order president, grab him by the PU, blobbity blop blob. Over 263 school shootings of children, American citizens, since 2017, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is a guy who stumps and says, he's the only one that can bring sanity to the United States, Charlton. But here it is, school children are being threatened every day. And you think about that. That's basically every day of a school year when you talk about those numbers, Charlton. But since 2017 that he has failed to protect the children of the United States from guns. And now he's not protecting the children of the United States from COVID. And so he is telling parents, we're not going to police the schools. We're not going to give security to the schools, protect your children. But, over 200, almost 300 school shootings since he's been president. But that's law and order in his world.
Yeah.
Because his kid doesn't go to a public school.
Yeah. I mean, something's up with that family. I'm telling you, something's up, Big C. Sometimes they hide certain people, but that's their own business. Now, I'm going to throw that in there with this here because people say COVID-19 doesn't exist. Here's the president with 263 school shootings. He doesn't talk about it. And he says when he just doesn't talk about it, Big C. College football. Southern Mississippi coach, I think his name is Jabe Hobson. He resigned just one game into the 2020 COVID season, college football season. His Golden Eagles have lost, I think they're 32-21. They lost to Southern Alabama on Thursday in the season opener. Now, that's not the main thing. The Southern Mississippi program, prior to the 2016 season, they went 28-23 overall and 20-12 in Conference USA play over the last 4 seasons. But he's stepping down, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think a lot of that is due to this COVID-19 pandemic. If you look at the rise of COVID-19 in the state of Mississippi, is that it is on fire, just like California.
Yeah.
And he knows that there's no way of keeping those athletes healthy or even himself healthy because he's a lot older than they are. And I think that the university may have been hiding some COVID-19 numbers, and that's why the coach stepped down, because he wanted to be honest about it. And the university is saying, no, we're going to play football. We're going to get this television money. And so if you don't want to be a part of the charade that we're holding over everybody, then maybe you need to go elsewhere. And that's what the coach decided to do. I think he stepped down in protest because the university wasn't willing to protect the players.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There's a lot of times when people don't want to pay attention to what's really going on. I want to mention one more thing, because sometimes if you don't pay attention, you don't see it. We talk about college sports and pro sports too, and high school sports. Mass shootings in the United States have increased in the Donald Trump era, Big C. 4 of the deadliest mass shootings in American history. For you good old boys that have the Confederate flag, that means since our inception. In history, Big C, they've happened and were committed by white men. You know, the ones that come from what he called the SO countries. They've happened during the Donald Trump presidency. In 2019, I know people want to know the game, but this law and order president in 2019, there were more mass shootings. There were in the days of the 417 mass shootings in America, Big C. There was more mass shootings than there were in a year under Donald Trump's presidency, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is a guy who always talks about law and order and anarchy in the streets now, Charlton, but he won't address those issues. You talk about 417 mass shootings under his presidency in 1 year.
1 year.
And like you said, that's more than days in the year. I mean, that means that a couple of them had to happen, you know, in the same week. So as you look at this president and he won't attack, you know, the NRA, and he's always stumping, you know, politically talking about, you know, the Democrats are going to come and take their guns. Well, white people are creating anarchy in America, Charlton, murdering American citizens, and they're getting the blessing of the president, basically, because he's not doing anything against it. I don't hear William Barr stumping against it, their attorney general, but he says when the black people peacefully protest in the streets, that's anarchy in America. They're not walking out there shooting people in mass killings, Charlton. They're protesting because their people are being killed. But he doesn't see it that way. Long as white people are shooting people in America, Donald Trump is okay with it.
Yeah, because it didn't happen. Just pretend it didn't happen. Over 100,000 Americans. I know people want to see the game, and they want to walk around without a mask, and they believe that COVID-19 is something that the president says is a hoax. Over 100,000 Americans have been killed due to gun violence since Donald Trump has taken over the presidency in 2017, and more than twice as many wounded. And yet Trump continuously says the way of gun reform and says that he's a law and order president. How do you say that you're the law and order president with so many fatalities that don't make the news every day, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what he wants to do is blame Democratic governors and Democratic mayors, saying it's their problem. He is the only person in America that can enact gun reform. All he has to do is sign an executive order for gun reform, but he refuses to do that. Because he wants to protect certain members that donate to him, Charlton, the NRA.
I think when you want to protect people, sometimes you pretend, just like COVID-19, some of those companies that he was promoting for being a cure for the vaccine that he said was a hoax, and their stock went up, and then we still got the virus. Now he's saying there's going to be a new vaccine before Election Day. It's going to be called voting them out of office. That's the new vaccine that's coming to the United States of America. I want to get on this because it's more important to me than just talking about sports. We do both, but here are 5 ways, and I'm just going to throw it to you, talking to different conservative friends of mine, 5 ways that this law and order president has failed to keep America safe from gun violence. Number 1, he failed to support background checks on all gun sales. Number 2, he reversed support on red flag laws. Number 3, he proliferated access to downloadable guns. Number 4, he made it possible for people who are suffering mental illness to buy guns. And number 5, $30 million makes most people repeatedly cave in to the NRA. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I look at that red flag law, Charlton, and lifting up the restrictions on people with mental illness being able to buy guns. You think about that, because every time we've had a mass shooting in America, he has come out and said the person was mentally ill. So he has advocated for these people that are mentally ill, Charlton, to buy guns and go out and commit these massacres. The guy that was in New Mexico last school year, at the start of the school year, when he went into the Walmart or the mall there, Charlton, and killed a couple dozen people. He said the guy was mentally ill. I'm always wondering, when they've killed the person, Charlton, that have shot somebody up in these terrorist attacks here on the U.S. soil, these mass shootings, and the administration comes out and says the person is mentally ill. Shouldn't that make them culpable in this situation because they knew the person was mentally ill? He put in regulations to allow a mentally ill person to be able to go out and buy an automatic weapon, Charlton, to assassinate American citizens. And
sometimes he won't even make it up. So maybe when he says law and order president, I mean, For who? Maybe he and Bill Barr, they have their own idea of who the law and order president is. And I wanted to bring that up because it's just sometimes if the media doesn't tell the truth and people don't know what happened, I want to throw this back into some college football before we come up on the Big C pause. I know everybody's pausing Big C. NCAA, the University of Utah, the Utes, they have issued furloughs for its entire athletic department. As I was watching college football being played by some schools from the Southern Confederate States, but Utah, because they put health over getting kids sick, they have furloughed some people, and there are people upset about it, but they're not upset about almost 200,000 people lost their lives in the country. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's realistically the proper thing to do, and I think all schools that are not playing football should furlough their athletic departments. When you think about it, they started with the athletic director on down. Why should you pay somebody these seven-figure salaries, six-figure salaries, when they're not working? I mean, when we think about the number of Americans that are unemployed right now, we still got 40 million Americans unemployed that are struggling, that can't get any assistance from the federal government.
Yeah.
And you can justify paying a coach a seven-figure salary for sitting around and there's no football because the university and the conference has canceled it. I think that was a proper thing to do, and I applaud the University of Utah.
Yeah, and it goes in line with the Big Ten Conference and parents wanting to beat up the athletic director of the Big Ten Conference. And then POTUS going through the swing states saying, don't worry about the 200,000 Americans that lost their lives. I want to see those black kids get out there and play football so they can take the virus back home to their parents come Thanksgiving. People got to read between the lines. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. And when I come back, I want to talk some more about things going on in the world of sports, but I really want to talk about some of our brethren, black and white, standing up for social justice. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. I even love turning on the Big C Sports Show on Xfinity, Comcast TV, watching the Big C Sports Show. And I'm hoping that things we talk about come true. Yeah, I want the $100 million. But can someone please create the Big C Burger? I saw this hamburger over the weekend. It had 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickled onions on a moonshine bun. Big C, that make any sense to you?
Well, it all depends on the liquid that you put in the dough, Charlton, that they can rise properly and give that aromatic flavor.
Yeah, I said that's a tasty burger. I think Sam Jackson said in the movie Pulp Fiction, he said, that is a tasty burger. I'm sure the Big C Burger is coming to a restaurant near you. I've always told you that really when it comes to Big C Sports, we really want to touch on everything. We want to be the new sexy. We want to be clever. We want to be engaging. We want to be bold. We want to be thrilling. We even want to be funny. But more than anything, school's starting back for some reason. Whatever we say, we ask you to please Google it. Because we want to show you that we are doing our homework. And some things are just ethereal. Some things are ontological. It comes from many, many moons of knowledge. But I ask you to do that to everybody out there in the universe, because it really lets you know what's true. I want to go to one of our brethren. As I've been saying for many, many years, I've always asked my white brethren, our white brethren and sistren, don't just let black Americans talk about how to create liberty and justice for all. Because many people grow up white and they are seeing everything this country has to offer. From the color of law, banks were given loans secured by the federal government as long as they did not rent those homes or sell those homes to black Americans. And people think, wow, why do so many white people live in those nice neighborhoods? Well, the bank said you have to be white to get those loans. Not because they worked harder, not because they had a higher credit score. The United States government said you had to be white. That's why. Big C, ESPN analyst, I've always liked him as an analyst, Kirk Herbstreit. He went to Ohio State. He has 2 kids, I believe, that go down to Clemson. He poignantly expressed over the weekend what Big C Sports has been saying for 5 years. And he's saying that our good white brethren can help by helping create social justice legislation and policy changes in America for equal justice. And I'm asking even Kirk Herbstreit, read The Color of Law, because that tells you that a lot of things are done by design. It's not because of bad people. It was government mandated that we could not get loans and employment in certain sectors. Our banking system, criminal justice system, it was all designed to oppress black Americans. Juxtapose what Kirk Herbstreit said when he broke down to what Donald Trump says when he says, fire those people and get them the hell out of the country. Why is it taking white Americans so long to come on to the national platform and say what we've been saying for 5 years? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I would beg to say that he most likely voted for Donald Trump when you think about his stance and where he lives. But, you know, you can make statements on television all that you want. The proof is in the pudding. Show me the guy that's going to go out there and fight for the injustice against black people, that's going to stand behind him in that way. I mean, lip service has been good. We've seen a lot of that on television lately. But even in that lip service that everybody is giving, they're asking, what can we do to help? Hell, you can stop racism. You can go to the white people. Don't ask black people, what can white people do to stop racism? Go to white people and ask white people, what can you do to stop racism? Because black people keep living it every day. And white people have to figure it out, not black people. Black people know what it takes to eliminate racism. We talk about it all the time. We talk about social and racial injustice all the time in America. So when a white guy cries, think about how many black mothers have cried, Charlton, and they haven't been on television. They haven't had that platform to cry. And you've just put away their feelings as a society. Well, oh, well, you lost a son. You lost a husband. You know, they don't give a damn about the black person's input into this thing. Otherwise, they will stop. You know, Ben Franklin said, people will not change until that change makes them lose what they have.
Yeah.
Okay? They will not. White society will not change because there is not enough black people to make them lose what they have in America. This is the reason why they try not to lump all minorities together. You know, Trump called the brown men as Mexicans to make them separated from black people. They separated Asians during World War II. They keep the classes of minorities separated in America because when they all come together, now they can force change on white society. So they don't ever clump them all in together, Charlton.
Yeah, and that's true. And it may have taken 5 years. And this is what I want to say to anybody coming up on the election. I'm asking everyone to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You have a man that has character. His son, Beau, also served this country. None of Donald Trump's kids have served this country. They've all had deferments, and they all got some crooked business going on. That's why none of them want to show their tax returns. They're doing all kind of nasty things that are illegal, Big C. And if they don't believe that, just have Donald Trump show his tax returns. Where I do want to just thank Kirk Herbstreit, Big C, because I told you many, many moons ago, when I got started in broadcast, it was with Fox Sports, and then it was NBC Sports, and later CBS Sports and some ABC Sports with the ESPN working in production. And most of the guys that I worked with, they were Caucasian men in the broadcast business. And I remember they had the Giants came out to the Oakland Coliseum and played the Raiders, and they were saying, make sure you watch this guy, Michael Strahan. He was a star player for the New York Giants defense back in the day. But as I looked up in all the press boxes, I'm thinking I was like the only black American there. Everybody was white. From the broadcasters that are well-known names, everybody was white. And so I appreciate what Kirk Herbstreit is saying, but I really want him to have that conversation with guys like Jim Nantz, with guys like, do you believe in miracles? Al Michaels, Troy Aikman. And don't do it in private. But I appreciate what he did in public. Big C, your thoughts?
Do you know where Kirk Herbstreit was from, Charlton? You know what state he's from?
I know he went to Ohio State.
He's from Ohio, one of the most racially divisive states in the United States. He played at Ohio State. So Kirk Herbstreit just was not surrounded by black racism in America, anti-black in America. He grew up with it in Ohio, Charlton. He went to Ohio State. He dealt with it all there. He saw the racial indifference of how people were treated at that point. He's been on television broadcasting for over a decade. And you're going to tell me in all this time that he hasn't recognized and haven't heard the black cries from the time he was a kid in Ohio to playing at Ohio State and being on the broadcast air, Charlton, that he has not recognized and understood the plight of black people. He's heard black athletes say this over and over. You know, when Herb Street made his statement, I mean, it was great. It was great drama for television. But black people live that drama every day. And, you know, you take a moment. It's what you do from this point on.
Yeah.
Was just that a solidary moment on television that made him look good to give him more negotiating power in his next contract? Or will he stand by that stance every day? Will he go out and be a stumping advocate for black people? Will he go out and stump for Joe Biden in Ohio? Will he go and tell the people of Ohio that they've been wrong for what they did? No, he won't do it in Ohio. You know why? He left Ohio a few years ago. I think he lives in Kentucky now because he left Ohio because of his stances. Okay? He got run out of the state. He had to leave. He got threats against him like black people got. And so he left the state. He had the financial wherewithal to leave when he got threats from white people on his life. So he left, Charlton. He turned and left. The black people can't do that. They get threats every day.
Yeah. Well, I understand the sentiments of both sides, but I do appreciate sometimes people get to the table late, but it's best they get to the table and shout it out. I want to bring up something real quick because it's so important to me. Because I heard over the years, my grandparents told me things and my parents told me things. It's one thing to shout and march, but you got to put things in writing. I want to focus on real quick. It's Thurgood Marshall. He argued a record 32 civil rights cases in the United States Supreme Court, and he won all but 3. You think about Thurgood Marshall. In 1954, Marshall won the landmark Supreme Court case, Brown versus Board of Education, that outlawed segregation in public schools. In 1967, Thurgood Marshall became the nation's first African-American Supreme Court justice. And I hope that the Supreme Court justices now, that we need to change legislation for social justice. When you think about it, Big C, the Supreme Court justice legacy and history, why no one on the bench has his godly, ubiquitous social justice or legislation character for 24 years, appointed by President Lyndon Baines Johnson, served from 1967 to 1991. So whether it's Kirk Herbstreit saying we got to make things better, whether it's Donald Trump saying fire the SOBs, get them out of this country, we need Supreme Court justices, as you always talk about, to really start changing law for equality for everybody. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the way the Supreme Court is set up right now, Donald Trump is done where it will not change, Charlton. You got to understand, when Thurgood Marshall was appointed to be a Supreme Court justice, there was a white senator that did a 22-hour filibuster trying to hold up the vote. I mean, there was 13 days of argument on the Senate floor before he got his confirmation. That's how appalled white senators were to have Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall confirmed. He ended up getting confirmed, and he was appointed by Lyndon Johnson to be the first African-American Supreme Court justice in America. But it says justice for all, Charlton. Why was it such a hard fight to make a black man a member of the highest court in the land?
Well, because sometimes things take time, Big C. It doesn't all happen by the snap of a finger, and I appreciate men that understand. Just like football. When you played football, I mean, as many sacks as you had in a year, you didn't get them all in one play. It took many, many plays of repetition, and the court system works the same way. And as we're coming up on the election, I want people to really pay attention to what happens with Supreme Court. I want to throw this question at you, then I want to get on some more about some sports. When you think about what Kirk Herbstreit said, as maybe one of the prominent college football analysts over the last decade or so for ESPN, white racism in America, and he could talk about this when he reads the color of law. An Ohio woman, because he's from Ohio, falsely calls the police on an African-American man. When have we seen this before? He was using a cell phone, and she said that he was carrying a gun. I think Darren Cooper was sitting in his car in a parking lot when the police came up to his car, and realizing that he was not white, they asked him to put his hands up, yelling at him, all because of that same stuff that made Herb Herbstreit break down in tears. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, that's the incident that I'm talking about, Charlton, that white people can do whatever they want to black people, and to say that they don't understand and they haven't recognized this over the years. Here's a white woman making a call against a black man sitting in his car using a cell phone. And I guess maybe the sun reflected off of it or whatever. And she's going to assume that he's got a gun to his head and going to call the police. You know, and here are the police coming up threatening this man's life for making a phone call. A black man almost lost his life for making a phone call, Charlton. You think about how dangerous that is in America and why black people always feel that they're being targeted. A simple thing of sitting in a parking lot, a public parking lot, not private, public parking lot. Yeah. And a white woman decides she's going to call the cops and say that you're there in a heinous way, that you can't sit there. You're not allowed to sit in your car and make a phone call. You got to be doing something heinous. And the police are coming up almost willing to shoot you. Almost willing to shoot you for sitting in your own private property.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking, and I appreciate what Kirk Herbstreit did. Yeah, he could have done it 10 years ago, but I'm glad.
But then he changed the ideas of the police. No, Charlton, because these police officers come up and pull their guns on you while you're sitting in your car having a conversation. Could have been talking to his wife or anybody. Could have been talking to his boss. Who knows? But a white woman feels that she can call the police on a black man and put his life in peril. We see that too many times in America, and the police take the belief of the white woman over the civil rights of the black man.
Well, Donald Trump said when you arrest them, rough them up. And he said, when they come into your neighborhoods, it's going to drive down your property values. And for all my decent white brethren, and Kirk Herbstreit, you can talk to white people about this too. When Donald Trump gave out that snake whistle, as you call it, not a dog whistle, but a snake whistle, then it gave people the right to believe, hey, I can do what the president does. Call the police and see if they'll show up. They're just doing what Trump said. Remember that when you go to the polls, especially...
How many white men have you seen marching with guns over the last several months in America?
A lot.
Walking up and down the street with long guns. Police just looking at them. Not even paying them any attention. It's okay for white people to walk around down the street with a long gun hanging off their shoulders. But a black man, if he sits in his car, in a parking lot, on his cell phone, then you can go out and take his life. But you don't bother those white guys, even when they march into the Capitol in Michigan, carrying long guns on a federal facility, Charlton. You still don't do anything to them.
But William Barr said there's no racism in the country, so how can you say that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, how can you say that? You look at it, Charlton. It's not me saying it. It's what we've seen on television. When they went into the capital of Michigan and threatening Governor Whitmer there in Michigan, Charlton, I didn't see any white police officers say put them down, lay down on the ground, put your hands behind your head. I didn't see that. I didn't hear that. And we saw the news cameras there. They were bringing a military-type assault on the capital of a state, of the United States of America. And the president praised that. William Barr, the attorney general, did not send in federal troops. The president did not send in federal troops because they were white people that looked like them. So they didn't want to bother them. They wanted to advocate for them. But a black man sitting in his car on the cell phone, just like a black man in Central Park out bird watching with a pair of binoculars, and a white woman wants to say that he's attacking her as he's videotaping it. The lie that gets told, this is what we talk about the police officers. I mean, I blame the white woman that made the call, but I blame the damn police officers even more because they came up threatening the man's life based on the words of a white woman. He wasn't an American citizen at that time, John.
Right.
They did not consider him an American citizen. They only considered the white woman who made this call an American citizen, but she should have been prosecuted for putting this black man's life in jeopardy. She should have been prosecuted with at least attempted manslaughter or murder.
Yeah, well, Trump said when you arrest them, rough them up, and I'm sure they knew what he meant. College football, Donald Trump also announced on Friday that there was a Notre Dame coach, Coach Lewis, will receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, among the country's highest civilian award. The announcement came just about 9 days after the coach delivered a speech to support the president at the Republican National Convention, claiming Democratic nominee Joe Biden, America's next president, is a Catholic in name only. So if Biden's a Catholic in name only, what is POTUS? Is he Lucifer, Big C? Your thoughts?
I mean, he's AKA Lucifer the devil. I mean,
yeah.
Joe Biden is a Catholic in name only. Donald Trump can't even say on microphone what he is. He is the lowest of lows, Charlton. And especially when he went after the veterans and the wounded veterans and those who had given the ultimate sacrifice for America, calling them losers. You know, he's a loser, Charlton. And, you know, Lou Holtz going out there stumping for Donald Trump. All you got to do is praise Donald Trump and you get the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But to give it to Lou Holtz because he wants to blaspheme an honest Catholic man in America, Joe Biden, who carries the rosary of his son in his wallet every day, Charlton. His son that he lost to cancer, who was also an active duty military man, who went and served his country in Iraq. Donald Trump knows nothing about honor, and I've lost all respect for Lou Holtz.
Yeah, me too. Lou Holtz made a nice living on Tony Rice and Rocket Ismail and Bettis playing football for the Fighting Irish. And he really showed you how he feels, and he won't give back the trophies that those young black men that helped him win. Even POTUS says, you know, when they take a knee, exercise the First Amendment to get the hell out of the country. Good job, Lou Holtz. Your true colors have finally shown through. College football, TCU and SMU season opener. It was postponed due to COVID-19 testing, and I'm sure that Lou Holtz, just like Donald Trump, they believe players should get out there and play anyway because that's how the white guys get paid. I guess they're going to play September 11th opener. It's canceled as far as I know, been postponed on pause because of COVID-19 testing within the TCU program, and the schoolmate that announced it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this lets you know how bad it is in Texas also, just like in Mississippi, that TCU had to cancel the game. SMU played this past week, Charlton. They played, I think it was Arkansas State that they played.
Yeah, Texas State.
And they won that game. But now, you know, the COVID-19 is so bad at TCU, just like with Tennessee, Charlton, that you're having to postpone a game. And so who knows whether that game will be made up? Who knows whether the season will play? If you're talking about, you know, TCU, I think that's about 45 miles away from Dallas. When you're looking at Fort Worth. So, I mean, look at Austin, Texas. Those schools that are all in that vicinity, Charlton, there's a lot of schools down in Texas, and TCU has already said that we can't control COVID-19.
Yeah, it's a petri dish down there in the Dallas Metroplex. College football, Stephen F. Austin players raised a fist and took a delay of game penalty. It was versus University of Texas El Paso, and they wanted to protest social injustice. I know William Barr doesn't believe it exists, and the players took a knee to raise their fist in the air with 12 minutes to go in the first quarter and took a 5-yard penalty for delay of game. And what they're doing is what Kirk Herbstreit took 5 years to acknowledge, at least since I've been around on the Big C Sports Show. But it's nice. People may come to the show late, but at least they come to the show. Your thoughts on the Stephen F. Austin players, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's two more Texas universities, Charlton, when you think about it, at El Paso and Stephen F. Austin, Texas. You know, but, you know, when you think about the clairvoyancy of these young players, that they're socially conscious enough to speak out. They can't all grab a mic, but they can do something to bring attention to all of what they did. They pulled a Tommy Smith Lee Evans move, Charlton. They took a knee and they raised their fist for solidarity. They didn't care about the 5-yard penalty. They understood it's just a game. But they need to get beyond this game through life, Charlton, because once those uniforms come off their back, no one recognizes them. And even if any of those players that are taking their helmet off in the game, nobody knows who they are on the national stage. So this is a way that they can command the camera, Charlton, by doing this in their uniform, letting their uniform be their mouthpiece.
Yeah, I'm proud of smart players that are starting to read. And listen, I'm so proud of young people. They don't have to get everything the first day. Not everybody's going to learn Spanish on the same first day in class. Some people take a year or two to learn it, but you learn it. Comprende, poquito, Big C. NFL football Cam Newton says skepticism about, you know, his fit with the New England Patriots. It was due to racial stereotyping. There was a lot of endless discussion about how Cam Newton might fit in with the Patriots. And honestly, I mean, think about this. He said it's because he's a black athlete, a quarterback for that many years in the league, over a decade, been unapologetic. It's been because he's carried himself in a way that the media hasn't given to him his just do it mentality. Newton said they want him to be more walking around like a Peyton Manning without as many commercials. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there was skepticism from the day that New England signed Cam Newton, from some former coaches and broadcasters saying that New England wouldn't even keep him, that he would get cut before the start of the season. And there's still coaches out there, former coaches, saying they don't think that he'll make it as a starter. I mean, you think about so much vitriol comes towards black people, not just black players, black people. Here's a guy, former MVP of the league, Charlton, just a few years removed from that, had some injuries, and people are calling for his demise. They don't want to see him succeed. The worst thing that the media wants, and these former white coaches want, Charlton, is to see Cam Newton make the playoffs in New England.
Yeah.
Because then they can say it's Bill Belichick and the quarterback that he puts out there.
Yeah.
Not all Tom Brady, because they have put Tom Brady up on this mantle. Cam Newton is a different horse. He's not going to fall by the wayside. He's going to succeed in New England. Because he's made the team, now they're saying that New England won't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is the big cry. New England won't make the playoffs. New England will make the playoffs before Tampa Bay makes the playoffs. They're in an easier division. Cam Newton is a better physical specimen out on the field. Even with the lack of weapons that he has, he still will have a spectacular year.
Yeah, New England's going to win the AFC East also. That's going to happen too. Go get the Big C Burger. It's out there at a restaurant near you called the Big C Burger. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickled onions on I think it has some kind of moonshine bun. It's all fair and love. I'm sure it tastes good. Speaking of moonshine, and there might be some buck in that burger, Big C. The Milwaukee Bucks, they get off the grill. You ever cook something on the grill and you walk into the house just to get some more seasoning, and you come back and that buck has gotten up off the grill and they stayed alive in the bubble. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's one I'm gonna let go if he gets up off the grill. I don't want to be bothered with it. But you know, the Milwaukee Bucks, they stayed alive. You know, in that Game 4 against the Miami Heat. But Giannis once again suffered another leg injury, Charlton. So I think it's just a matter of time. They can't win 3 in a row against the Miami Heat because Miami pushed them. And that game went into overtime, I think, with a little help from the officials. Got to that point. But I think Miami should take this series. And you know, Giannis still has his real estate agent looking in California.
He got to wait till the smoke clears first, Big C. When the smoke clears, maybe he can see how to get around California. The Heat fell 118 to 115 in overtime, despite Giannis being injured. But, would you play him, Big C, coming back, knowing that he probably is going to leave town anyway? Would you play him coming back, risking further injury, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, realistically, I don't think they should have played him in this last game. I mean, he went down in this last game. This is the second game that he's gone down with that ankle injury. It's only you can only take so much. If you recall Steph Curry several years ago when he had that injured ankle, he ended up missing about 25 games.
Yeah, that's true. You don't want to rush back. I mean, don't rush back for a team you're going to leave anyway. That's just my opinion, because they don't care about you if you don't play for them anyway. And I'll tell you something about the Lakers and the Rockets series. I thought Lakers would win it in 5. Maybe I'm looking at 6 now. If the Lakers will realize they're a much bigger team, play the game in the paint. Quit using your machismo to match these three-point shooters. When you shoot three-point baskets and you miss, you don't get rebounds. And Rajon Rondo, he's horrible on offense, and he knows that. I think he's not 8 or 10 points. But if you're going to shoot the ball, get in the paint, don't shoot threes. But his defense was off the hook. Rajon Rondo played defense the way an all-pro defensive stopper will. He was in the grill of James Harden. He got in the grill of everybody that had the ball. And I think his poor shooting hurt them, but his defense helped them win. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to look at that from a different perspective. I think his shooting was what the difference was in the game. When you're looking at Rondo knocking down, 9 points and 8 assists in that game, Charlton, that was the difference. That's something that they haven't had from the guard position, and no one expects that from Rondo. So whenever you get it from Rondo, it's a huge plus. And, his floor, generalship that he had was a major difference for the Lakers, because he could match up with the smaller guard of Houston, which those big guys had a problem. Rondo was the reason why they won that game, and that's going to be the reason why if they win the series is going to be him. You got the big guys, but you can't run with the little guys. That's the problem that you have.
Well, I like him defensively. Offensively, I say quit shooting threes. Yeah, shooting the paint, at least you get the assist, or you can get the dish. I mean, you can get the layup, the foul, or the dish. But you're not a three-point shooter. But his defense, I haven't seen defense like that in many, many moons. I really appreciate seeing how defenders play defense. Big C, I also want to run to, staying alive. Do you believe in miracles? Well, I'm not getting to the score tonight, but them good old boys from old Canada. I told you, I watched the movie Jurassic Park, and I'm sure I saw a raptor eat a leprechaun, Big C. They ate him back to get even in the series. I don't know if they can hold up for seconds, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you think about the Raptors and the futility that they have, Charlton, they were down 0-2 last year.
Yeah.
And they came back and took the series. This is a team that doesn't know how to quit.
Yeah.
We've seen them down basically in every series that they've ever played in. But this is a team that wants to win.
Yeah.
They're a championship team, Charlton, so they're not just going to lay down because media says this other team is better than what they are. I mean, Boston got a little complacent after going up 2-0, saying, okay, we can coast now.
Yeah.
Right now, their back's up against the wall with a red-hot Raptors team coming on.
Yeah. Like I said, when you walk in the house to get some more seasoning and that bucket's gotten up off the grill, what do you do when a Raptor's gotten up off the grill, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, we saw the movie Jurassic Park, and it did turn out well.
Yeah. It takes you got to have some stones to want to put a Raptor on the grill anyway. Give me your feeling in the last few minutes. You got the Denver Nuggets and the LA Clippers. I think it's the first time Kawhi hasn't dropped at least 29 points, but I don't see that happening in back-to-back for Kawhi. Denver did show some moxie. They found their legs, and they were able to almost start to finish. Beverly gets a $25,000 fine, which is a chump change for him. Give me your feeling. Does Denver start smelling themselves, or is it another chance for LA to put them back in their place? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about that. They got L.A. being uneasy when you talk about the Clippers. They get players kicked out of the game and get fined.
Yeah.
So, you think about Beverly. He may be a little tentative in this next game. And look for Murray to go off in this game, Charlton. I mean, it's his time to shine.
Yeah.
He's not going to have that many bad games when you think about a guy that came into this series, one of the top scorers in the bubble.
Yeah.
And now it's time for him to get untracked again. And, can the Clippers be consistent? I know, you know what you got from Kawhi Leonard. Will Paul George show up, and what type of mental state will Beverly be in?
Yeah, we're seeing some good basketball down in the bubble. I know guys are really putting it on the line. And you can put it on the line, too, especially when the president, for the next 57 days or so of the United States of America, tells a reporter, you can take your mask off. He's insulted military general, their families, especially the wounded warriors or soldiers. And we've lost nearly 200,000 Americans to COVID-19. And maybe half of that could have been avoided had they just worn a mask with good leadership. And he tells a white reporter, take your mask off. You don't have to wear a mask. And we've already had over almost 200,000 graves because of Donald Trump. White reporter said, no, I'm going to wear, I read. Just text the word vote to 26797 and get registered. Text the word vote to 26797. Tell them you, Big C, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, WNBA, they all say go out and vote. You got to go out and vote. At some point in time, Kirk Herbstreit, I appreciate what you said, but I want to hear more of your white brethren saying that because it makes more sense then. Big C, COVID-19 is risen 17% in school-aged children, K through 12, since the opening of schools in early August. I'm just going to assume that most of these kids, K through 12, they go home to parents, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about that, Charlton, they have to go home to a caregiver that's generally older, from a parent to a grandparent, sometimes great-grandparent. And, these kids can carry, but if you got a 17% spike in K through 12 children getting COVID-19, and we're talking about in the month of August, and this is after the first week in August when schools starting opening up across America, and yet Trump keeps stumping and saying it doesn't affect kids. But a 17% rise in any sector of America, Charlton, is an unacceptable number. I know he's lying to the public saying that there'll be a vaccine available before Election Day, which he wouldn't take it even if it was. And I think that should be the criteria. If there's a vaccine ready, is that we all need to watch Trump take it. But the thing about a vaccine, Charlton, to have a vaccine to be able to take around America, you have to put it on dry ice to get it around the country, which we don't have enough dry ice or facilities to store it in So it's not going to be available. But if you don't read and understand science, then you'll never know that. But that's a horrific number, Charlton. That many young children becoming affected. And think about it. They haven't tested everybody.
No.
That's just the ones they tested.
Well, I'm sure he will show his tax returns before they find a vaccine that the doctors will approve of. But people, just go out and vote. Please, don't leave it up to Big C Sports to tell you. I appreciate Kirk Herbstreit and ESPN following the Big C Sports platform. They actually had a white guy come out and speak from the heart. Whether it's late or early, I do appreciate. It's better than the men that say nothing. I know Djokovic, he apologized for what happened on the tennis court in New York City. And God help the firefighters in California. We really got to find a way to get this help. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. And he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble, Big C. What are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, as we see college football off in full swing, and we know that the high schools are playing all across the country, I just wish that more of these universities and high schools would be honest about the number of COVID-19 positive tests that we have. You talked about the 17% K through 12.
Yeah.
How many of those are high school athletes, Charlton, out there playing high school football that they have not quarantined? Once again, I want to say thank you to our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders. I know that you people are always honest, where our government isn't.
Yeah, I really appreciate everybody reading. Who's got it better than us? You can follow Big C Sports Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence or racism. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.